Hello, good evening. It's Adil Fazal here, market analyst at CFDs.com, bringing you a review of the FTSE 100 end of day market analysis, Thursday, 12th of November 2015. This video is brought to you by CFDs.com. Be sure to visit the website. Alternatively, visit the educational site as well for latest updates, analysis, etc. Okay, this video will be trying or attempting to dissect the FTSE 100 and the sell-off. I think the fact that it's pretty evident, I think, today in terms of why the FTSE sold off. Obviously, the commodities are taking an absolute beating. We have the likes of copper making a 6-year low. If I bring up a chart of copper, you can see here we've dropped and broke through the actual key resistance zone. On the weekly chart, let's just zoom out, see if we can find anything at all. We have to go back almost to a monthly chart now and potentially zoom back here and even attempt to look for any support. Let me just get rid of these. I hate these pivot points. Okay, no problem. So now on the monthly chart, you do have a potential gap fill support here. So watch out for this zone almost at 12, just above almost $2, 2.1 zone. Currently we're trading at the 2.17 zone on the price of copper. Okay, so that's probably the zone that we're going to watch in terms of the price of copper. Any diagonal trend lines that can potentially come into play. Yes, we do have one coming in. So I mean, yes, we do have a sell-off in copper, and really, I mean, given the fact that the Hang Seng was up by 2.4% overnight, the Shanghai was more or less flat, Nikkei was flat as well, potentially higher. Given the fact that we've seen quite a substantial sell-off already, yes, we do have the hawkish rhetoric from Miss Yellen, although she did abstain and didn't say anything untoward today, and all her colleagues basically came out and were very, very dovish in nature. So it's hard to envisage a real en masse sell-off here. Now, one of the reasons why I'm actually bullish on copper at this junction is mainly due to the S&P 500. Those of you that believe, obviously, based on the intermarket analysis strategy, we have actually closed the gap. We closed the gap at 2050. So, given the fact that the H&S formation was 2048, we're more or less complete on the H&S formation on the S&P 500, and the sell-off basically has all been basically come into effect. So, given the fact that the S&P is 500 is into support, I'm then projecting that support, projecting that bullishness onto the actual European and obviously commodities, etc. as well. Now, not only that is I actually expect the dollar to potentially be topping out here, given the fact that we're putting a bottoming tail, as you can see in the daily chart. And the 60-minute chart certainly has not put in a lower low, and we certainly seem to be putting a. This is a 2-year yield, by the way, and the 2-year chart of the full, obviously Treasury T-note, 2-year T-note. So we have a potential inverted head and shoulders on the 2-year note. Okay, so if we go further down, look at the 5-year note, and again bullish formation. Everything certainly seems to be bullish here, certainly putting in support, and again bouncing off that, putting in a double bottom and obviously moving higher ever since. Going to the 10-year T-note again, okay, again bullish. We've not had any red candles further selling, obviously creating a sell-off. We're holding that bottoming candle here, and certainly bullish consolidation within this green candle. So going to a 60-minute chart, again you are looking at a potential bullish pattern with no lower lows. If anything, you have higher lows, and therefore you are looking at projection higher on this market. So again, bear that in mind. Okay, so given the fact that's the case in terms of the actual bond market in the US, let's have a look at the actual dollar itself. Now, all the participants that came out today were certainly, from my perspective, was certainly very bearish, and therefore, or not bearish, should I say, dovish, and nothing really untoward in terms of sending the dollar higher. And you can see here we're consolidating above previous resistance. But the ultimate level we all need to hit is further down, which is the breakout level, which is around the 1-to-100 level. Now, if I go to our 60-minute chart, you can see that we have this bear flag formation in place, and we need to close this gap below after hitting that double top. So again, looking at a technical perspective, testing previous resistance. Okay, and that's basically what we're looking for. This is the zone. Okay, so we have this, and then we have this. Okay, so these are the zones that we're going to observe, and these are the zones that we're going to watch. Okay, so again, any potential sell-off here, you are going to potentially see support. So my understanding is this, is that given the fact that we had several members today, likes of Evans, the likes of Dudley, basically with their comments, there were even the IMF note says Fed should hold off on first hike until signs on rising deflation. So So basically, you have a pause, and we can certainly see the damage that has been done, and it's been quite substantial damage in terms of the dollar rising, and obviously that's hurting commodities at present. Also, if you look at the price of oil as well, if I look at the price of oil, you can see here we've plunged and sold off quite substantially. Now on the 10-minute chart, we certainly seem to be holding this potential double bottom around the $41 level, so that's going to be absolutely crucial. Also in terms of gold as well, gold has certainly put on a bottoming tail and bounced off the support level. So that certainly is an early indication that you are going to see a bounce in the rest of the commodities, given the fact that the dollar is obviously weak and needs to close the gap below. So again, that's going to be another interesting chart. Now Glencore, we close a gap on Glencore. Okay. Now, even though everybody's saying bearish, 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 what pattern do you see here? Okay. So when you start to see all these bearish articles on the in the news or journalists, etc., and you start to see it all, unfortunately, hammering away in terms of all the bearish news flow and the sentiment gets so bearish, and that's basically when you have a high probability of the actual pattern playing out, and therefore you are looking at a potential short squeeze here on Glencore. Okay, especially given the fact that commodities are all into potential resistance. Now, if you look at the emerging market fund, again, you are into gap fill support, you are in diagonal trend line support. So therefore, if emerging market index, the EEM, is potentially into support, therefore the dollar will be into resistance, or expectations of a rate hike will be into resistance, and that will certainly send the markets obviously higher. Now again, this is the chart of the CRBQ. CRBQ approaching gap fill. Given the fact that we flushed quite substantially today, you are looking at potential support now, and gap fill just slightly below, and therefore you are looking at support on the CRBQ, and then therefore you're looking at support on the FTSE. Now I did get stopped out of my FTSE trade, unfortunately. I did attempt to buy on the dip, and unfortunately failed miserably. Got stopped out on 6163 as the FTSE sold off after hours quite substantially. But again, any attempt at a potential bullish sell, I'll be the first one in there, and I'll certainly buy. I've actually bought the Aussie, by the way, given the fact the jobs data was certainly strong overnight, and I am looking for further strength in the Aussie on the back of commodities rallying. That's my expectations, and I'm actually gone long on the Nasdaq as well, because the Nasdaq is immune really to a lot, although it has been dragged down at present, but it should certainly be immune to it. Okay, now again, the chart of the CRBQ certainly is into support, and therefore I am looking at potential move higher. Now let's look at the actual mining sector. Mining sector is coming into double bottom support, so therefore again I am a bull on the FTSE 100. It's very hard to start to adopt any bearish bias at this juncture. Okay. Now the actual oil and gas as well, you have sold off quite substantially, so that's something that we need to bear in mind. Taking the pivot low to the pivot high, and you are coming into the 61 to fib 75% support. You do have horizontal support in this zone as well, so any further weakness here will certainly be a good support zone, and a way in which the FTSE can certainly propel higher, especially given the fact that the Aussie and Kiwi certainly are strong at present. Okay, so again, there is a lag. Okay, I was expecting a potential inverted head and shoulders formation to play out, but given the fact that commodities have seen such weakness, that's been unable to be materialized. Okay, so that certainly is the situation with regards to commodities. Commodities really are the bellwether. Again, the banking sector certainly into support. The pharmaceutical sector did come into immense resistance today, or immense selling pressure today. But you do have support in this zone, so certainly be aware of that. Okay, the telecoms, you did put a potential topping tail, even with Vodafone earnings yesterday. Very surprising, but yes, you are seeing weakness here, so that's certainly something that you need to be cautious of going forward. Okay, now the farmers, the banks, the beverages, certainly obviously under pressure due to AB InBev. Yes, obviously the losses that were reported there. Also, you can see here the insurance sector again is into potential support, so that certainly needs to be taken into consideration. The auto sector again weighed down today, concerns, etc., with regards to a potential extension, I think, of the emission scandal. So that certainly needs to be taken into the equation. Now, let's look at the actual index. Now, first of all, I need to make you aware the volatility index. Now, the daily chart of the volatility index is certainly looking at potential exhaustion. 60-minute chart, you can see a potential topping tail here. If you use your trend line, although if I just use drawing my diagonal trend lines, taking the pivot high here, you can see that we are into potential resistance. If I take the pivot low from here, and you obviously are in a bullish channel, but you are into upward channel resistance. Now, the 10-minute chart on the volatility index, it's only hit resistance above R3, and you can see that we had this H&S formation, hence the reason why I was bullish on the FTSE going into the close, looking at a potential sell-off to ensue, and that unfortunately did not materialize. Okay, as you can see here, we unfortunately have not materialized with regards to that sell-off, and the market certainly seems to be jolted and back in that same zone. Okay, so that's basically what we expect. Okay, now looking at the actual FTSE 100 now, let's try and decipher this. Now let's go to a weekly chart first of all, and the question that you need to keep in your mind is, has the bearish news now all been factored into the FTSE? That's the question that we all ask ourselves. Now this thrust higher on the week of the 5th of October, we were expecting a potential bull flag, and obviously given the fact that you got QE in Europe, and obviously Chinese stimulus, and obviously the US markets on the verge potentially of breaking out higher, even though we had post stronger NFP data which signaled a rate hike, the market still were quite stellar and have been holding their own, and now the S&P has gone into gap fill. So we'll certainly see exactly how US markets react. But so far, even with tapering, the US markets still have been quite impressive, to say the least. Now the weekly chart you can see here certainly has flushed quite substantially, and certainly would exercise caution if you were a long-term trader. Now the daily chart is what as day traders, that's what we're focusing on. So please don't confuse my long-term picture with my short-term picture, etc. Even my short-term, my swing trading really is only medium-term, so it's like a week, ideally maximum, or a couple of days, because it's very hard to forecast really going forward quite substantially in terms of the market movements. Your time zone is very limited in terms of your accuracy. The further you go, the less accurate you are. Okay, so given the fact that we flushed down to this fib 50% support of 5180, again, any further weakness at 6110, again, would bring in the fib 61%. Any further sell-off would then obviously bring in this key diagonal trend line. So I am expecting support at this 6182 level, basically given the fact that it's at fib 50% and it's at previous resistance equals support. Not only that, is you can see that the dollar is certainly into resistance. The bond market certainly is into potential support, and therefore obviously you are looking at the yields dropping as well, and then obviously that should certainly temper any expectations of a rate hike, especially given the Fed comments today of the members. Okay, so nothing overtly bearish at this current juncture, and if it is, it's already been baked into the cake. That's my philosophy. Okay, 60-minute chart. At present, the FTSE, yes, we have flushed quite substantially. We failed to hold the pivot there at pivot S3, yes, I think, or we certainly failed to hold that. Okay, and now basically we are looking at previous resistance equals support, which is around the 6160, 6170 level, and that certainly is your zone to look at on the FTSE 100. Now the FTSE 100 itself, obviously we lost that key support level here at 6250. After that, it was good night FTSE, and certainly started to plunge quite substantially. Okay, so that's basically the stance that we have. In terms of technicals, we can draw this downward sloping trend line. I think that's the only thing that we can observe in terms of the downtrend. And unfortunately, we're unable to go any further at this juncture. Okay, so you currently have 6190. We were building a base, and obviously the market has dipped below that, unfortunately, and started to show further weakness on the 10-minute chart. We were unable to build that base. Now the 5-minute chart on the FTSE 100, again we had this downward sloping expanding wedge pattern. I did expect this expanding wedge pattern to certainly lead to a breakout, and we did actually get a breakout to 6215. We failed to make a lower low, and therefore I was expecting a higher low, and that's why I bought the actual market looking for a higher high, and that failed to materialize as well. So the market really is tricky at present, but you have to respect it for what it is. Now we did have a mini inverted head and shoulders pattern type as well, a formation as well, and obviously that failed to materialize as well. So certainly weakness, given the fact that even when you do have a breakout, technically it's not supported or it's not sustained, and therefore obviously it leads to a potential or further sell-off in the market itself. So certainly an interesting scenario there, folks, in terms of the FTSE 100. Bear in mind the VIX itself, okay, take that into consideration. Looking at a daily chart on the FTSE 250, you are coming into potential support on the FTSE 250 now. That's something that you certainly take into consideration. Certainly you are looking at potential support there. Now looking at FTSE Europe, again you are looking at potential support on the 60-minute chart. Looking at a daily chart, again you are looking, well, no real support other than the fact that you have fib 50% retracement. So if you look at the market here, you look coming into 50% retracement. The FTSE Euro Top 100, yes, we flushed again, but we are back into that horizontal support. If you go to your 60-minute chart, you should be able to see it better, and you are into that 200 MA support as well. The FTSE oil share has flushed quite substantially, certainly worrying on a daily chart, so certainly something to take into consideration. 60-minute chart, really speaking, you only have this key resistance zone here, which equals support, and that's really the zone that you've been looking at and focusing on. And that basically is a wrap in terms of the actual FTSE itself. Just bear in mind, Glencore certainly seems to have taken the headlines today, and it may well be Glencore that will lead the headlines higher. Or the market higher. So given the fact that you've gone into gap fill, we've certainly bounced off the towards the close. As you can see here, quite a good, impressive and a substantial thrust down on Glencore off the 90p level up to 95p, and that certainly does indicate a potential reversal is coming from my perspective, especially given the fact that we're into that gap fill support level on Glencore. Okay, so certainly bear that in mind. The emerging markets, remember, is into support, CRBQ into support, bond market potentially into support, obviously, and the dollar into resistance, and everything certainly seems to be aligning itself. All we need now is for commodities to certainly behave themselves and start to gather some steam. The 10-minute chart, you can see here we haven't made a lower low yet, so then this is going to be interesting to see if we can continue with this potential short squeeze. Gold market is already telling you that we are going to short squeeze and we are going to move higher on the FTSE 100. Although I have been stopped out, I'm currently long in other markets that will certainly benefit from any rally in the FTSE itself. So that's my summation, folks. Okay, just keep an eye on Glencore. That's really going to be your bellwether. You have put in a double bottom on oil, so again you have to respect that. And given the fact that we are into the dollar is into resistance, I would not be surprised if we see a quite a substantial, quite a stellar rally on the price of oil, and that should certainly tend to take equities higher. Again, the market is king, so far adhere to what the market tells you. I'm tired now. Obviously, trading starting at 5 in the morning and I'm doing analysis, etc. It gets quite tiring. So, okay, it's I must dash now because it's Whirling Dervish evening, and so I wish you the best. So be sure to keep an eye on Glencore, okay, and watch out for that support level from 6160 to 6170. Certainly expecting it to hold. Okay, goodbye now.